Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're building a computer from scratch, all the hardware going inside the tower, with my special guest and good dear friend Tony from Electronics Centre in Kings Road, St Leonards. So without further ado, here we go.
They say you don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here. And no, I don't wanna be alone.
Before I hand over to Tony, just a few points. Any mention of company names from the products that Tony is using for his build were supplied by the customer, and in no way are they affiliated with the making of this video. Also, you might hear a lot of background noise. Unfortunately, it was a very warm day when we were recording, and then, like now, my front door's open, so you might hear the seagulls every now and again. And when we made the video, also we had to do a lot of stopping as customers were coming into the shop. So I hope that doesn't put you off. So I'm going to hand you over to Tony, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you.
Yes, hi. Today I'm building a new gaming sort of tower. So it's an AMD 3 Plus. It's an AMD 3 Plus. So I have here, obviously, there's a tower. It's a gaming tower. Here's the motherboard. It's an ASRock. So the ASRock motherboard is it, Extreme 3. It's 990FX Extreme 3. It's an 8-core. It takes an 8-core processor. So I've got the new AMD 3 8-core processor, which I'm going to install. So currently now I've mounted it onto the motherboard, so ready to mount it into the tower. So at the moment now, before you mount it into the tower, you need to apply some thermal paste, which I've done previously before. There's a thermal paste, and obviously, so you make sure that you got sufficient mount there, and you should have some on the back of your heatsink here. So there is some pre-made onto the back of this, so you can just apply the two together, so it should just sync. So the process now I'm just going through is just installation. First thing I need to do first is to put some little plates here. So there's these little things like washers. So they come in a little bag, and these are the little things here, the little tiny little washers that need to protect the motherboard from arcing directly onto the back of the tower. So they're tiny little rings. You can have a look at them. They're tiny little rings. You can have a look, yeah. And these rings go in between there. So I have to place the motherboard, the case down to put them in. So I'm just doing that now.
Go, cut.
Yeah, now I've got a power supply, and the power supply is 850 watts, which is going to run this motherboard. And remember, like I said, it's an AMD 3 Plus. Okay, so I need to put an 850 watt inside, so you don't have any problems with all the components that's inside. So I just open the case from the side, from the backs of the case. Turn the case round so you can have a look. So the power supply should insert in here. So it has to face on the outside. So we try to squeeze it in. Hopefully, yep, that works perfectly. And then the fan is on the base. So we have a look. So now we've fitted this inside. Sometimes it can be a bit tight, which I can show you. It can be a bit tight to work around, but you need to just have a bit of agility with your hands to get it in the right position. So once you've fit it in, don't worry too much about the cables for now. Just leave the cables attached so it doesn't get in your way. And then what you want to do, you want to line up from here your screw holes like that. So you can see there's the little screw holes here, and then this is where you insert the screws. And now I'm going to reinsert the screws.
One, go.
Right, here we go. So putting the screws to hold the power supply in position. A bit fiddly. Don't tighten them up straight away, just get them hand inserted first, like this if you can. Just catch 2 or 3 of them, wiggle it around so you can feel that it's actually catching the thread. So always wiggle that, and that makes it easier, and therefore you can get it, because sometimes when it's stationary it doesn't always catch the thread. And there's one here which is awkward a bit slightly, but I'm hoping that I should be able to get this one. Wiggling it, there we have it. And that's it. So now we just need to tighten it up and put your hand inside the space, push on the power supply forward, and there we have it. A few turns, just hand tight, that's all it needs to be. And that's one power supply sorted. Make sure it's normally on by default, but turn it off, so when you're connecting all up you don't get any shorts. Okay, that's it. So now we continue. Best to leave the back plate off, because we're going to need to get access to the cables and everything. So now I'm just going to undo the cable car, feed the wires. I haven't put the motherboard in yet, because obviously all these things, essentially, because you're moving the tower around and you don't want to be moving the tower around so much with the motherboard in. So I'm feeding the wires to come up through here for that section, that's fine. So now I've got the wires. The next stage is to put the motherboard in. So we've got this there like this. So the motherboard is going to fit in here with all the wires. So you want to make sure that none of the cables are on the base. So make sure that the base is completely free from wires. So here we go. 2, 1, go. So we have the back plate for your motherboard. This is essential. You must put this in before you insert the motherboard. So I'm just taking out the packet. It normally comes with your motherboard. So once you purchase a new motherboard, make sure before you assemble it that you have it in the package. So it's inside there, you open it up. Basically underneath the motherboard it would be in a tray, and it would look something like this depending on the motherboard you have. Okay, so we're going to insert it, but you insert it, make sure you do a template first. Say, oh, that's the right way around, yeah, that looks good. You first check it by saying that fits perfectly, so you can see all the peripherals hanging out. So therefore make sure you put it from the inside like this, and again you don't need no screws required. You just put it there, line it up and push it with your hand, and it should just slot in with minimal force. It should just clip. You should hear a little clip, something a bit fiddly. Well, that one is not as smooth as I expected, but anyway, well, let's try that again. Let's try one more time. Yeah, I mean, these things are not manufactured, in my eyes, they're not as manufactured as well as they used to be manufactured. It's a bit flimsy now. Never had this problem years ago. Anyway, so try to get it centralized as much as you can. I'm not 100% happy with that, but hey, it works. It fits in anyway. Okay, so now I'm going to insert the motherboard. So the motherboard just literally goes in. Be careful not to damage any of the components on the motherboard. Try to hold it by maybe one of the heat sinks. So you can just insert it, and then you mount it on top of the screws that you've inserted previously before. Although you can't see them, but they're in there. And then once you put it, it should fit through the hole of the backing plate. And then you should attach some screws, which will go in these holes. Okay, there's usually about 6 to 8 of them. So hang on, I'm just gonna. All right. So what I'm doing currently now, I'm just mounting the processor bracket, which is the backing plate and it holds the heatsink. So it's a bit fiddly. So I have to get these screws again in the right position. This, come on. That's it. Just like the fan, you have to, like the power supply, you have to wiggle the screws. Right, so plates, little plates to hold on heat sink. So I'm just mounting them in. 2 brackets, put screws in, hand tight. Sure that you can see that well. Okay. So basically, the reason why I'm doing this, so we're changing from the standard AMD fan that came with it. We put an extended heatsink, which is, as you can see, twice the size, so it gives you more cooling capacity. So with a 1500 rev a fan, and I'm going to mount another one on the back of it as well, so that should cool down the AMD processor. So I'm just going to mount that. So now, fiddly. By the way, I'm just holding my finger underneath just to hold the back plate in while we attempt to do this. Just that. That's 3. Okay, that's it. Looks like it's mounted. So the next thing here is to mount the heatsink. So we've got 2 sort of brackets, but before you mount these, you need to take this fan off. So you unclip this like this, unclip it one side, unclip it the second side, and take it off. And then we just position the heatsink in the right where it connects onto the 2 brackets. But before that, you should apply a bit more heatsink Arctic solder. So I'm going to do that now. Some compound, and I think I've got some here. So firmer paste. You put a bit on, apply. I've already applied some to the processor already, previously before. I'm applying a bit more here. Squeeze your hand, leave it in the center, and then what we do, we just twist it onto the processor like this. So you form a seal. So just squid it around a little bit. Move it around a couple of times so you feel that it's got a bond, and you want it to cover as much surface as possible. So that means that it's gonna dissipate the heat smoothly, and I think there you have it. You see, it's on both sides. Now we just mount. That's it. Make sure the screws line up. Sometimes it's easier, I should say, putting it here on the outside rather than putting it into the case, because the case is such a tight space of work. I prefer mounting it on the inside, on the outside rather than inside. So I'm just applying that now. Make sure the screw lines up. You have to put a bit of pressure on it. And then you've got it, and then now it's like a kind of torque. You need to just try to alternate between your screwing down. So you torque one side, torque second side, torque the other side. So you're balancing out the distribution of pressure. It may not tell you that. A lot of people, you've just been told just assemble, but make sure you torque both sides until the screw goes right flat. And keep going, and then you can feel that there's no more movement, and that should be it. It's really difficult to say when you're in the right position, but you just have to feel and get it that there's no movement of the heatsink and the processor. It's not moving around, and that's it. So I'm fine with that. So now I'll just 1 second, I'm going to take one corner off. Yeah, that's it. So while you're at it, you might as well just add, if you bought your memory, these are as you can see, they're DDR3 and 2 sticks of 8, so adding to 16 gig. Okay, so you just need it's best to add them now rather than adding them. Well, you can add them inside, but I like to mount on the outside so it's just easier. That's number 1. And you just look at the slots. Make sure you got it in the right groove. So there's a cutout groove here. You see the cutout groove? There's a cutout groove. And there's a cutout groove in the motherboard where it slots. So make sure the two line up. And put it in the first slot. And then you put it flat. And down. It seats together. You push your thumb. What I've just done, you turn it around. Put your thumb together and apply evenly pressure, and it should just grip in. Same applies here. Number 2. Now you can do them alternate spaces, some do, but if they're color coded, but this is not color coded, so I'm just applying them next to each other, so it doesn't really matter. And there you have it, and that's it. And now ready to insert. Just check your work, everything's fine. Make sure that you're happy with it, and then in we go. Like that. Be careful, just making sure it lines up with the screws. And then your backing plates should just be there. Now, I had a bit of issues with this backing plate, but yeah, it does have to work with it. That's the way they make them nowadays. So now I'm just applying the screws. Got a screw here, preferably if you've got magnetic one. If you haven't got magnet, this is how you make your quick magnet. Get a magnet, draw it against the screwdriver like that, and it will magnetize. So if you get an old magnet, just draw it against the screwdriver once or twice, and it will magnetize the screw that you need. There you go, doesn't fall. So now with motherboards in, I'm just connecting all the cables from the case. You've got to feed the cables out, so you've got all the case. You've got the hard drive, sensor, the restart button, and then just basically plug it all into the motherboard. So I'm going to do this. But they're quite easy, just easily fit in there. So I'll point to it. Just basically you got some connects on the motherboard. It says fan, panels, and plus and minus. So you just plug them all in. If you've got any USBs, you plug them in there, and then they all work. So basically we're just going to plug them all in. It's straight. It's just follow the instructions on there. It says on there power, plug power to power. So this takes a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to do this now. So now we're going to assemble the graphic card. So the graphic card is an MSI, and you can see it's MSI Radeon 570, which has I think it's it should be it's 8 gigabytes, and yes, 8 gigabytes graphic card, DDR5. So, and the good thing about this graphic card, it has multiple displays. So you can see we've got 5 outputs. So HDMI, 4 HDMIs and 1 DVI. It's really good. So quite an advanced, very powerful graphic card, 8 gig. So we dismantle it into the slot here where we can see. So 1 second now, so I just need to take off the backing plate.
Oi, I've just seen a phone I really like. I've seen a phone I like. Yeah, with the phone.
So what you do, you just make sure that you have enough space. Put it here. That's it. So take out 2 blanks. So first and second. So we're taking out these 2 blanks. So we've got 2 blanks. 1, 2. Come out. Blanking plates. Insert the graphic card. So to insert the graphic card, you make sure the cables are flat down. So I'm trying to show you what I mean. Make sure that you've got the cables out of the way of the graphic card, so as low as possible. So I'm going to insert it. Around. It's a really tight board this is. And move again with a quick snatch. It should be in, and there we have it. Okay. So where the graphic card is inserted, make sure it's pushed in with your palm of your hand, that is inserted into the slot like that. And yeah, that's it. So now we just put this couple of screws in there to hold it from the blanking plates. Bit fiddly, getting your fingers. So I guess use your screwdriver, magnetized one, and you should be able to insert the screws. Again with the magnet, hold the screw in position and insert. That's a screw. That's it. Okay. And we have it. Now there's a lot of assembling of cables here, so I've got to assemble the cables, then fix the fan. I'm going to put 2 fans on this, so I'm going to assemble the fans on the side of the heatsink, one in this side, one in the other side, and the connectors will go just underneath the fan, so which I'm underneath the heatsink, which I will connect. So they both go positioned, so in a second you'll see that. Yeah, so now I've fitted the graphic card, so the graphic card is inserted properly. I've screwed it down. I've also fitted the 2 fans for the heatsink, as you can see. They're both fitted. They're a bit fiddly. Sometimes you might need, just to get behind the case, where you got spring-loaded clips here, you just use like a little tool, maybe similar to this, and you just flick it around like a flick, and that's it. And then hopefully it gives you an extra hand, a thin hand, to get around the back of the case. Okay, so now all is left to do now, all the cables are in, we've connected the power supply, everything. I've also inserted the hard drive, which I've just connected to the motherboard through one of the USB ports, which is serial port 0. I've connected underneath the graphic card, so I've connected the hard drive. So now all we need to do is see if it works, power it up. So we connect the HDMI cable Here we go. Yeah. Keyboard, USB. You can plug it into any USB 2 or 3, doesn't really matter for testing purposes. We don't really need a mouse, we can just use the keyboard. So now all I need to do is power supply. So remember, I said that should always put it onto 0 first, so there's no power going into, just in case you got a surge. So, and then power it up. So now hit the button and hopefully we should see a display. Alright, there we go. It's HDMI, you can see something there, an ASRock, and there we are, we have the motherboard. There we are, one system ready to go. I think you can see from here. Yep, we've got single channel memory, which is we've got 2 8s. The DDR3 RAMs are working. The processor is an 8 core. You can see that's on the board, 4000 megahertz. Yeah, so all working fine. Thank you for watching. Hello.
Hi there, I'm with Tony now. Right, Tony, give us a little description about your business that you're running here in St Leonards.
Yeah, so I've been in St Leonards since 2010, and my background is computing / electronics engineer. So I basically, it's a bit hard to describe it. I mean, you normally do two to combine together, but I started off with computers. So I started building PCs, like I've just shown a description of building a PC, but I've been doing it for like 20 years. So over the years, I've adapted my skills into electronics as well. So I repair computers, meaning I build computers, laptops I can repair, fault finding, troubleshooting, I also do soldering. So anything to do with repairs on a computer, I think I'm pretty much competent on that side of things. So generally hands-on on anything, even working with on servers, networks, whatever it may be. I have an insight to various different types of problems that I tend to work over the years. So today I just gave a demonstration of just putting the PC together, but I didn't buy the components. I had a client that brought all the components into me, and then I assembled it for him. So basically I've shown in the video all the parts I've assembled. Generally, a lot of people don't know this, but you should have at least 12 to 13 components that will make up a PC. Now, I can give you that information later on if you require, if you follow the lead on the back or whatever.
In the description.
Yeah, in the description, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, that's the background. And also with my electronics, when I say it's quite a wide scope of repairs I might undertake. I used to repair televisions, hi-fis, anything that basically has got circuit board in it. Like I've got a couple of components on the side here. So I've got a power supply that somebody's brought in, which is a power pack for a 12-volt car battery starter. Somebody's brought in a mobile fridge that had a circuit board problem, so I'll undertake that problem. So giving an idea of what kind of things I do. Also I do pack testing. I've got a pack testing machine here, so I'm a pack tester as well. So if anything needs to be pack tested, you can always get in touch with me and I can give you some advice or pack test your items for you. Along that side as well, I've also moved into the small electronics, meaning such as like mobile phones, tablets, iPods, any small integrated game consoles. I'll repair them. So I've got one here, which is my next job now, which is a Nintendo DS XL. So basically I have a problem with the DC jack. So I've already dismounted it already. So here is the motherboard dismantled. I've just taken off the actual DC jack. So I'm going to resolder it back in position, and then hopefully it should be working. So things like this is the type of things. Anything electronics, I would have a go. I'm not frightened of electricity. I'm not frightened of any challenges that come in electronics. So there it is.
I've also noticed that you've just started getting into closed circuit TV security, because you can see behind
Yes.
you with the cameras, which I know you just put up.
Yes.
How did you get into that?
Actually, I think it's just another thing that I just moved into, because I thought, well, it's part of electronics as well. I mean, I've already done several installations. I mean, it's a natural process I felt for moving on. It's not so difficult. So once I've learned the core things about how the computer works, how to set it up on the keyboard and the mouse, and if it's a bit technical, I can go for the technical reading description and set it up. So it's just a process of this transition from what I was doing. So I decided to go into CCTV as well, and maybe not into surveillance, but just more the CCTV, just installation.
Yeah. While we were filming the construction of the tower, one thing you pointed out, there was a few minor little problems.
Yes.
Because of the customer actually bringing in the equipment, where you didn't bring the equipment in.
Yes.
What are the pros and cons of customers bringing it in, or a customer coming and saying to you, this is what I want my computer for, can you suggest the best computer?
Yes. Yeah.
If you understand that type of question.
Yeah. Well, okay. The pros are obviously if the customer brings their own components in, they have control over the cost aspect of it. So they bring all the components, but they must have a general knowledge of what goes with what, as it were. I mean, generally what's compatible with all the components that you bring. If you have an in-depth knowledge, then you probably be able to build yourself a nice flowing, I'm not sure, a machine that would performance-wise would be the ultimate performance. But if you've, like this particular case was, the client probably purchased several things, I'm not sure from the same site, so he's bought separate components from different sites, and all of them are compatible. For example, this is an AMD, and with the case was compatible and the power supply was the right size, but I have one drawback was when I came to fitting it into the case, I realized some of the connections inside the case was not suitable for the motherboard, such as we got the USB 3 terminals, which was peripherals, but you connect the USB 3 from the case, because it has a front USB port, and there was nowhere compatible on the motherboard, because the motherboard, it was an ASRock, and perhaps this was designed for maybe a gigabyte motherboard. So therefore there was no adapter, but we could get an adapter, but being the client bought it himself, there's no way that I would be able to, I just had to fit what was necessary I could fit inside. Now, had I purchased it myself, I would have made ensure that I would have the right case with all the right connectors and any adapters needed for the processor or the fan, for example. If you need to extended fan, I'll make sure I have the right connectors and cables and additional cables that you needed. Another thing was that when the client purchased it, didn't bring any SATA cables. So this is it. So again, I had to supply the SATA cables. So, but it's not a drawback on this. So, so pretty much it's best things to do your research properly. If you're not quite sure, you need to ask someone that is a computer builder, and they will give you an insight of what you can possibly do. Or sometimes you can go to a site online and they'll give you all the components, and preferably if you buy them all from the same manufacturing company or the company that you purchased it from, say Amazon or whatever it is, you're more likely, if you have any issues, you can send it back. But if you're buying it from multiple different places, you may come across problems with, and they will start blaming each other. So you might have problems with warranty. So the advantages again is that cost saving, and basically because they brought the components, is that they're down to their own personal warranty, because I didn't buy the products. So yeah, there you have it. But it can work. It works, and if the client knows what he wants, it's great. As a builder, I would continue to do it for him.
Just to say, sorry about the background noise. Fortunately, we've got the door open and it's rather warm today, so
yeah, I know I've been distracted by
King's
people
Road
just looking
today
in.
seems to be a bit on the busy side, so I apologise
Yes.
for the background noise and the screaming of the kids outside. Overall, Tony, over your experience of building computers and the advancements, has things got easier or more difficult to build a computer over the time that you've been dealing?
Yeah, so over the time, yeah, computers have changed, and I think the process of building the computer is definitely more is definitely more easier to build now than it had been over the last, you know, as it been like 2 decades ago, because the components were far more expensive, but now it's much more cheaper to purchase the components, even so, and they've worked out, made it more easier to assemble them as well. Whereas loaded operating system in the early days was quite a challenge. You need to put loads of floppies and CDs and all these things to get the system running, and then getting the components was not available online because there was no online format at the time. So we had to go around to computer fairs and buy all this stuff and then put them together and then try to work out what was the best units together, you know. But it wasn't all that heavy gaming stuff that was available now today. So now companies have deliberately set up in the purpose of building machines more easier and, you know, nicer to, you know, work with, you know, smoother lines like this. Anyway, so that's a short description of what the past and the future is. Yeah.
Well, my last question, Tony, just to give people, when contacting you, I'm going to leave your email and your phone number.
Yeah.
And if any questions do come via YouTube or
Yes.
Facebook, I'll pass them on to you. If people do want to contact you to get more information, is it, how can we put this, what areas don't you cover? So if they contact, can you...
Okay, in terms of in terms of the electronics and repairs, yeah, I mean, look, like I said before, I would, I'm quite happy to have a go at anything that's got power supply and any sort of circuit board in there. So once you understand about electronics, you kind of understand it's just electricity running through the circuit board. And if you can understand that, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to undertake any repairs. It doesn't matter how big the machine is, there's a circuit board in it. So, you know, and there is a lot of fear factor because unless you understand how the flow of electricity and how it's safe, and if you can work within the safety aspects of it, then you're fine. But if you haven't got that safety aspects, then you shouldn't really indulge in trying to take, because you can cause yourself a severe electric shock, or you could be damaging the components that you're working with as well. But for me, yeah, I'd have a look for the smallest electronics, like I said, the smallest things, sort of from an iPod down to, you know, working on any major massive 18-inch television.
Right, thanks very much, Tony. Hopefully we'll do another bit more videos.
Yep.
We're going to have more repairs and we'll get it on camera and Tony can show you how and why and what he's doing. So once again, thanks very much, Tony.
Thank you very much for watching the video. Okay.
Thanks, Tony, for that, and I do appreciate the time that you spent with me the last couple of days making this video. If you'd like to see Tony, I'll leave his contact details down below, and if you're in the area, we always pop in to see him. I'm sure you appreciate
fear factor because unless you understand how the flow of electricity and how it's safe, and if you can work within the safety aspects of it, then you're fine. But if you haven't got that safety aspects, then you shouldn't really indulge in trying to take, because you can cause yourself a severe electric shock, or you could be damaging the components that you're working with as well. But for me, yeah, I'd have a look for the smallest electronics, like I said, the smallest things, sort of from an iPod down to, you know, working on any major massive 18-inch television.
Right, thanks very much, Tony. Hopefully we'll do another bit more videos.
Yep.
We're going to have more repairs and we'll get it on camera and Tony can show you how and why and what he's doing. So once again, thanks very much, Tony.
Thank you very much for watching the video. Okay.
Thanks, Tony, for that, and I do appreciate the time that you spent with me the last couple of days making this video. If you'd like to see Tony, I'll leave his contact details down below, And if you're in the